What's happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Hopefully, we're coming off a win after the Week 5 matchups. Starting a little early today, so I know it's possible it might be a smaller crowd. I had an appointment that I couldn't move, doctor's appointment. I'm all good, but it had to be done. I had to keep that on the books. So, had to move this up a little bit. So hopefully this doesn't inconvenience too many people. But we'll go over the top waiver wire ads that are likely available in your league. If you have a specific situation, we can obviously talk about that. If there's perhaps a guy that's a little bit more higher owned, or you're between certain options to drop to make room for waiver wire options this week, we can get into all of that. But I will give some overarching thoughts on potential ads for this week. I can take any questions as well. Again, as it pertains to waivers, maybe you have a trade conversation in the works that you would like an opinion on. We can get into all of that over the next couple of hours, or for however long you guys are, or however long I have questions from you guys. I do have a hard stop this evening. That's why I had to push this stream up a little bit. So apologies for any timing inconvenience for you guys. But I did want to make sure that I got at least some time with you this evening to talk through waivers and then any potential other talking points, trades, what have you, that you may have going into the week. As always, I do tend to push. I push start sit questions down the road. So if you do have a start sit question, I'm gonna ask that you come back, if not Thursday, over the weekend when we have more information, injury updates, practice reports, all of that stuff. That ultimately best helps determine what you want to do with your starting lineup. Right now, it's a little premature. There's no games being played tonight. There's no games being played tomorrow. There's no games being played before 8 p.m. on Thursday. So there's plenty of time to sort out the starting lineup that you'll be deploying this week. So we'll address those on Thursday at the earliest. A lot's happened today as well with the Jets firing their head coach, Robert Saleh. The details and the fallout and the evaluation of all of that, I'll leave for the talking heads on ESPN. From a fantasy perspective, I'm not sure too much has changed. Nathaniel Hackett is still calling the shots, is still the primary offensive play caller. So with no due respect to him, I think we can continue to expect the Jets offense to operate in the stale approach that they continue to have. Every beat reporter for the Jets has been indicating today that there have been concerns in-house about Nathaniel Hackett and his ability to call plays and an effective offensive game plan over the course of a game dating back to last season. Even without Aaron Rodgers, there wasn't a whole lot of confidence stemming from that. Appears to still be an issue this year. The offense has been stagnant. Aaron Rodgers hasn't played well at times. So I don't know how much influence Saleh has there as he's a defensive hire. Remember, he was the former defensive coordinator for San Francisco before he took the Jets job. So not sure how much of his fingerprints were on the offense. I'm sure, of course, he had his input. All head coaches generally have input on both sides of the ball, regardless of where they come from. But Nathaniel Hackett remains the play caller for the Jets. So it wouldn't be a surprise to continue to see them struggle, although Garrett Wilson did come to life in London week 5. So hopefully better days to come for Garrett Wilson moving forward. Also just got a notification from Sleeper. This is breaking news. Saints quarterback Derek Carr suffered an oblique injury toward the end of the game last night against the Kansas City Chiefs that is likely to shelve him. He's expected to miss multiple weeks. This is according to Mike Garafolo. I believe he's still NFL Network, right? So, Saints quarterback Derek Carr expected to miss multiple games with an oblique injury. Is it like who's the? I saw the guy. I saw their backup quarterback. Is it like Jake Hayner or something like that? I know it's not Ian Book anymore. It's Jake Hayner is currently the backup. I guess Taysom Hill could get in there when he's ready to return. He didn't play Monday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. I know he has fractured ribs. So what in the world is his return looking like? Did not log any practice time during this week. Taysom Hill's return is currently up in the air. However, if you play in a one quarterback league, perhaps it's a 12 or 14 team league where quarterback options are at a premium, Taysom Hill might be worth a cheap waiver claim for a couple of weeks. That is, of course, pending how healthy he is, which right now we don't have an update on. So Derek Carr expected to miss multiple weeks. Jake Hayner will be the starting quarterback if Taysom Hill is not ready, with Spencer Rattler, the rookie, presumably the backup. Not an ideal situation for the Saints offense. This downgrades everybody. This downgrades Alvin Kamara. This downgrades Chris Olave. This probably impacts Rashid Shaheed the most. Carr seems to like throwing the ball to Shaheed. His target share is not too far behind Olave's on the entire season. So, it wouldn't be a surprise to see the backup start to maybe hyper-target Olave. I guess it could be Shaheed as well, but downgrades all around on the Saints offense for the next few weeks. Yeah, less than ideal spot for New Orleans. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you. So just got hit with a bit of breaking news there. So the Jets fire Saleh. Derek Carr's expected to miss multiple weeks. We got a roller coaster of information in a very short amount of time yesterday regarding Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice. We were initially told that it was a positive diagnosis on his knee as far as his return to play. And then it ultimately is determined that he will miss the rest of the season after all, after undergoing a procedure to address the LCL, a hamstring, all of that stuff. So while the news is apparently better than expected for Rashee Rice, we're still looking at an extended absence. He will not play for the rest of this year. And, of course, we have to keep in mind with Rashee Rice, we could be looking at a suspension to start the 2025 season. So while we can expect a full recovery for Rice, not only are we not going to have him for the rest of this year, but it's possible we don't have him for the first, say, 4 games of 2025. So we're really looking at probably a year's time. We're maybe looking around this time next year for Rashee Rice's return. So I don't know. For anybody who plays redraft, just straight redraft, you can cut Rashee Rice. You can drop him, free up either the roster spot, a roster spot, or one of your injured reserve spots. You can comfortably drop him. It's unfortunate. We were headed toward a top 20 flex season in all likelihood for Rashee Rice, but not to be. His 2024 season is presumably over. You can free up that roster spot in redraft. Obviously, he's a hold in Dynasty. If you have a keeper league, that's where it gets a little bit more fluid. It depends on what the cost would be to keep him and if it's worth it to clog the roster spot for the rest of the season. So your situation in that spot is dependent on the specific circumstances of your league. What's the cost to keep him? All that good stuff. I will say, if you have a situation in Dynasty where maybe you are not a contender and the person in your Dynasty league who has Rashee Rice is a contender, you could look at this as a buying opportunity to take a shot on Rashee Rice, but you have to be in a situation where you aren't relying on him for a little while. So to say it, like, if you're in a rebuild situation, you might be able to, like, you know, move some win now pieces to a contender to pick up Rice and maybe some extra capital as well. Just throwing it out there as a, potential scenario for anybody who plays Dynasty. So that is the latest. As far as what's immediately going around the NFL. Let's get into waiver wire options that are likely available to you for this week. First teams on bye this week, Kansas City. So you're not relying on your Chiefs, Miami Dolphins, which is probably a bit of a blessing. You don't have to think about Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle or Devon Achane without Tua. You could just put them on your bench this week because you were going to anyway. The LA Rams, outside of Kyron Williams, Jordan Whittington had a nice day, had a nice spot. I think Demarcus Robinson had a solid day. But anyway, those guys are on your bench. And the Minnesota Vikings. So no Justin Jefferson. A week to heal for Aaron Jones after he picked up what I believe was a hip injury in London against the Jets. So a week off for Aaron Jones. That'll ideally shrink the amount of weeks missed a little bit by having the bye week here. Chiefs, Dolphins, Rams, Vikings on bye this week. The top name in all likelihood, regardless of need or format or scoring, is probably Tank Bigsby. The last I saw on Sleeper, he was rostered in about 30% of leagues, which means in 70% of leagues, Tank Bigsby is available to add off of waivers tonight or tomorrow, depending on when your waivers process. Bigsby should be the top option, the top waiver wire ad, even if running back isn't a pressing need for you. You never know when it will become a need for you. Put simply, Bigsby looks like he's on track to usurp Travis Etienne eventually as the Jaguars' RB1. 13 carries this past week for 101 yards and a touchdown. Ripped off some huge runs for like the third or fourth straight game. ETN missed a little bit of time in the second half of that game, which was apparently by design. He was dealing with something, and the Jaguars didn't want to force any issues or risk anything. But still, that's like the second straight week where in the second half we've seen Bigsby start to really shine and pick up some big numbers, some big plays. It's not out of the realm of possibility that we see Tank Bigsby in the RB1 role relatively soon for Jacksonville. ETN this year hasn't been bad. But he hasn't been the star that that we're hoping that he should be, being a former first round pick. Only received 6 carries this past week. Again, dealing with a shoulder injury. He was held out late in the game. Isn't this the second straight week where this happened? It was like, oh, ETN missed a little bit of time, and so we had to get Tank in there. Happens for the second straight week. Shoulder issue. I mean, Bigsby looks like he is Bigsby looks like he's taking over. taking over that role. So he's the top ad again, and he should be available. He's available in over 70% of leagues. He's the top ad. Ty Chandler is tentatively an interesting ad this week, although the Vikings are on bye, so that's a week for Aaron Jones to get right. What was the latest on Aaron Jones? I believe it was a hip injury that he suffered, and it forced, he was ruled out eventually. He didn't play for much of that game in London. Appears to have avoided a long-term injury. That was a report 4 hours ago. So good timing for Aaron Jones. Minnesota's on bye this week. Still, especially if you have Aaron Jones, Chandler is worth an ad just to protect yourself. If you have Aaron Jones and you don't have Ty Chandler, now is the time to protect yourself. There's a good chance he flies under the radar this week if he's available. And he should be. Double check his ownership on Sleeper, 36%. So in 2/3 of leagues, Ty Chandler is available. So if you have Aaron Jones, you should probably go ahead and grab him. And you could probably only throw a couple of bucks of fob at him. If it's just straight waivers, you could probably let him pass through. Again, Vikings are on bye this week, so he should fly under the radar. But still, we know how fickle running back depth is or can be. So if you have Aaron Jones, grab Ty Chandler. He's probably not worth any fob for any non-Aaron Jones owners, only because you can't use him this week. And it's possible, again, the report is that Aaron Jones avoided any long-term issues or concerns with the hip injury. So that presumably could mean he's good to go for week 7, but hips can be tricky. Chandler, therefore, does have some standalone value, but unless you have Aaron Jones, I don't know that I would burn a waiver claim on a guy that you can't use this week. And there's no guarantees that that he'll be a viable option for week 7 in a standalone situation. But certainly, if you have Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler is out there, now's the time to grab him and secure that handcuff situation. And then the top 3, just to round out the top 3, if you need a wide receiver, that is Jalen Tolbert. Brandon Cooks is expected to miss at least, not expected. He was placed on injured reserve, right? Cooks was placed on IR. So he's going to miss the next 3 games at least. The last I saw it was a knee infection, not an injury. Still serious enough to shelve him for a month. So clearly something serious going on, or, something mildly serious, if that makes sense, with Brandon Cooks. Hopefully he's okay. I remember hearing it was an infection. So hopefully he's all good, but it was enough for the Cowboys to put him on IR. And Tolbert had a decent showing in a less than, ideal matchup against Pittsburgh on Sunday night in Cooks' absence. So he's the clear-cut wide receiver 2 now behind CeeDee Lamb. 7 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown. That was good in half PPR scoring at the very least, probably full PPR as well, for a low-end wide receiver 1 performance. So if you are hurting at wide receiver, as whether it was injuries or bye weeks or some combination of the two, Jalen Tolbert is your guy, and he is widely available. 17% ownership on Sleeper. Other formats on Yahoo, it looks like he's even lower than that. So, He's probably behind clear wide receiver 2, might be 3rd in the pecking order overall because of not just CD, but Jake Ferguson. But this is a good spot. This is an opportunistic spot for the young ascending player. Defense is keen on CD Lamb, keen on Jake Ferguson. I mean, Tolbert should have one-on-one coverage more often than not. And you know, if Sunday night is any indication, he should be able to win those matchups enough to make him fantasy relevant. So if you need a wide receiver, Tolbert's your guy. Those are the top 3 ads. I see that there are some questions populating in the chat, so I can start getting to those now. I can revisit additional waiver wire options if you would like, or if you have anybody particularly that you have your eye on who is still available. Maybe Josh Downs is still out there, like a Tyrone Tracy if you're going deeper looking for running back help. Roshan Johnson, at running back, if you could use the help. Michael Wilson, if you could use some help at wide receiver. He had a nice day in a tough spot against San Francisco, and he's drawing targets. So if you're in a deeper league, Michael Wilson is definitely viable. Those are some of the deeper waiver wire ads. And guys like Ty Conklin and Cade Otton are on the streaming radar week to week at tight end if you are still hurting at the tight end position, which a lot of people probably are. All right, let me get into some of these questions now that I've worked through some of these waiver wire kind of notes, cliff notes overarching. Let's see. I see Greg. I see Dynasty Football Key. What's going on, guys? Always got to give a special shout out to my members. Appreciate the support. I see Nino's got yet another super. Appreciate that. Very kind of you, Nino. So supers will be line jumpers to get your questions answered or comments prioritized. In addition to being a member of the channel, that is a perk. One of the perks of being a member. I will get to everybody else's questions in order, but I got to take care of the members and supers first. So appreciate y'all's patience as I do that. So if Rico Dowdle is available, Greg, that's my guy. I mean, he's the RB1 in Dallas, and he had an RB1 performance in a brutal matchup against Pittsburgh. I mean, I'm rocking with Dowdle, especially if you have like a 0 RB build. If you went strong, sturdy at wide receiver at the top of your draft, and maybe you're kind of sorting through your running back options as the season goes along, there's no better option for me right now than Rico Dowdle. Ezekiel Elliott is cooked. Deuce Vaughn is not built to handle more than a scat back role. This is Rico Dowdle's backfield for 2024. If he is available, I mean, I'm pouring 30%, 35% of my FOB to get him. Tracy is perfectly fine as a fallback option, but Tracy will likely cede the job back to Devin Singletary when Singletary is healthy. I mean, Dowdle's the guy for Dallas, and he ran well, looked good, caught a touchdown against Pittsburgh. Should have had another touchdown at the end of the game there. They gave him a goal line opportunity. That the Pittsburgh defender made a terrific play to punch the ball out. It forced a fumble. Dallas recovered it, but Rico was inches away from a second touchdown, which would have been a massive game. I think would have made him the RB2 on the week. Dowdle is the guy that I want to be putting FOB into if he is still available. If you need running back help. Downs is a good ad as well. It depends on what you need more. I would like to add both, but not at the expense of dropping an obvious guy. I don't know who other obvious options you potentially have. But Dowdle is the guy that I would want to be picking up. Dowdle is the guy I would want to be picking up. And if you have Jennings, he was kind of quiet this week, right? Jennings is a good receiver. He's behind so many guys when everybody in that offense is healthy. It's hard to justify keeping him when Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle are all healthy and doing their thing. It's hard to justify keeping Jennings in 10 and 12 leagues, maybe 14 team leagues, but even then it's a little tough. So, yes, I would drop Jennings for Tolbert. And I prefer Tolbert to Michael Wilson just because, um, I think I trust. I guess as a pure passer, take fantasy away from it. As a pure passer, I think I trust Dak a little bit more than Kyler. Plus, with Michael Wilson, Zay Jones is returning. So while I like Michael Wilson, does Zay Jones cut into his potential usage? He is a guy that will tend to work inside, whereas but he can go outside as well. Zay Jones, he did play a lot of outside receiver for the Jags, so it's possibly clashes with Michael Wilson a little bit. Maybe not right away, but as he kind of gets reacclimated post suspension. So I would say Tolbert slightly over Michael Wilson, but I like them both. So yeah, Tolbert, you can drop Jennings for Tolbert. That's totally fine. And I would try to get, I would try to get Downs first. I would drop Jennings for Downs, and then if there's another guy that you can, I would drop Jennings for Downs, and then if there's another guy who's wasting space at this point, I would drop that player for Rico. I want Rico Dowdle if he's still available. He should not be on waivers. You're going to probably have to pay up a little bit to get him. Do I have Rattler in Dynasty? I don't have Rattler in Dynasty. I guess he has a potential opportunity here if Haener doesn't work out. But man, I don't know how much I trust that situation. We'll see about how Spence does in New Orleans if he gets a shot. We'll see. Nino again with the super, very kind of you. Thank you so much. This is a trade question. We're trading away Xavier Worthy, Terry McLaurin, and Brian Robinson for DK and Pollard. No. I'm not dying to do that. Pollard's been very good, considering there were a lot of question marks about him coming into the season. But like Brian Robinson is an RB1 right now. I know that, the appeal to Pollard is he's been really good. He's been an RB1, been a low end RB1 once, high end RB2 once, low end RB2 once, and then week 3 he was, completely off the fantasy radar. He had a bad game. Brian Robinson has been amazing. RB12, RB16, RB22, RB10, RB14. I mean, his floor is just higher. In this offense, in this Washington offense that is just performing better than Tennessee. And I'd rather have a guy attached to Jaden Daniels right now than a guy attached to Will Levis. And then I wouldn't, I would rather have Brian Robinson just dissecting the trade piece by piece, position by position. I'd rather have Robinson than Pollard, and I'd rather have Terry and Worthy than DK. So, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that trade. I don't mind the idea of like a sell high on Worthy, even though he did have a touchdown last night, and continues to prove how dynamic he is, and his opportunity is huge with Rashee Rice definitively being out for the season now. But I would want for Worthy, I want to sell high in the sense that like somebody is like falling in love with the guy and willing to give you like a really, really strong piece for him. To have to include him in a 3-for-2 swap where I don't want the guys that I'm getting more than the guys I already have, that's a no for me. I'm keeping my Commanders, and I'm keeping Xavier Worthy. I don't want DK and Pollard for that package. Appreciate the super, Nino. Very kind of you. Thank you, as always, for supporting the channel. I see I got another super from Bobby. Very kind of you. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate that. Trade Mason and Wandale for Brees Hall. No. 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 I mean, Brees is talented as hell, but he's currently in a bad offense, ceding plenty of work to Braylon Allen. And Brees has not been he hasn't been very good. Mason is an RB1 right now, a top line one at that. I'm not even really concerned about McCaffrey's potential return, because right now that remains very much in limbo, in question. I don't want Brees Hall for Mason. I don't think I would trade Mason for Brees Hall straight up, and I'd have to give up Wandale on top of that. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. No, I'm keeping those pieces. McCaffrey's not coming back this week. He's not coming back next week. He's not coming back week 8. The 49ers bye week is week 9. That's how I know he's not. That's how I know he's definitely not coming back yet, because the 49ers are not going to bring him back in these circumstances before the bye week. So, Mason remains a top 5 option moving forward in those instances. And Wandale Robinson continues to be one of the target leaders in the NFL. He's top 5 in targets with a healthy Malik Neighbors. So even if Neighbors is out there playing and we expect him to return week 6 after a 1-week absence, I mean, Wandale is still one of the league's target leaders. I don't want any parts of Brees Hall for this deal. No. I do not want Brees for those two. I want to keep those two. Definitively. Definitively. So do not make that trade. Appreciate the super, Bobby. Thank you so much for the support. Much appreciated. All right. Let me go back up to the top. Appreciate everybody's patience as I work through members and supers. Let me start from the beginning. Someone dropped Sam Laporta. I wish my league mates would drop Sam Laporta. It's fair to wonder if Laporta is a considerable upgrade over Pat Freiermuth, only because Laporta has had a pretty lackluster start relative to expectations. He's got coming up Dallas, Minnesota, Tennessee, Green Bay, Houston. I mean, this is not a scary of enough schedule for me to say no. I mean, and I don't want to roster 2 tight ends. So Freiermuth would be the drop for me here if you choose to go that route. Freiermuth has been a tight end 2 every single week except for one. Week 4 against Indianapolis, he was the tight end 3. Just goes to show how volatile the tight end situation is, whatever you want to call it. 15, 13, 18. Has Laporta's floor been lower than Freiermuth's? It has. He bottomed out weeks 2 and 3. But he is past his bye week. I mean, if I saw Sam Laporta on waivers, I think I would be rolling the dice to drop Freiermuth for him. I just have to, I don't think there's I don't want to overanalyze a situation. If I saw a league where I had Pat Fryermuth and someone dropped Sam Laporta, yeah, I think I would roll the dice. I would put that claim in. I don't think that I can't sit here and say, well, Fryermuth's floor has been pretty good. He's got touchdowns the past 2 weeks. No, I would put a claim in for Laporta and drop Fryermuth and roll those dice and live with the results. Yeah, I would. If I sync with that, if I sync with a free Sam Laporta, like it's like think of it like this: if it was a trade, if somebody offered you Sam Laporta and they were only asking for Pat Fryermuth in exchange, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna roll the dice on that. This is kind of like the same thing, except you're trading with the waiver wire instead of a person. Yes, I would pick up Laporta and drop Fryermuth. If Fryermuth outscores Laporta for the rest of the season, that's a risk I'm willing to take. Yes, I would grab Laporta and drop Fryermuth. Yes. Dynasty question, and I will start pinning these. Give Kraft and receive Andrews and Spears. No. No. I mean, unless you're desperate at running back, and even then, like, Mark Andrews is a shell of himself right now. What did he do against Cincinnati? I know it wasn't much. Or did he catch a touchdown? No, he had four or five targets for 55 yards. Which actually wasn't even as it was only barely his best game of the season so far. 4 catches for 55 yards is Andrews' best game of the year so far. And that was in a pretty good matchup. In a game where both quarterbacks threw for 1,000,000 yards, Andrews was only able to get 55 of them. Likely scored the touchdown. Charlie Kolar got in the mix. And then Spears, I like Tajay Spears. I do. I like him quite a bit. I think he's talented. I think he's shifty. I think he's a guy who needs a larger role on this Titans offense. But in Dynasty, no, I'll take Tucker Kraft. He is the Packers tight end one, not just of the future, but of right now. He has beaten out Luke Musgrave as far as like expectations, who starts, all that good stuff. He's not going to catch 2 touchdowns every single week, but he's their guy on a prolific offense. And he's 23 years old. Mark Andrews is 29 and looks like he's 37. No disrespect to 37-year-olds, but we're talking about NFL talent here. He's only actually 29, so there's still plenty of time for Mark Andrews to right the ship, to turn things around. But like, even if he does, in Dynasty, his ceiling is capped with the presence of Isaiah Likely. Whereas Tucker Kraft doesn't appear to be like anchored down by Luke Musgrave. Maybe that changes if Musgrave continues to develop and improve and get better and all that stuff. That could happen, but it's already happening to Mark Andrews with Likely. So no, I would keep Kraft. I would keep Kraft. I would keep Kraft. Like, could Mark Andrews still turn this thing around? Sure. He's a vet. He's been around the block. Nothing has, he hasn't seen anything that he isn't going to see at this point out on the field. He knows what he's doing. All of that. We can rattle off all these positive, these pro Mark Andrews talking points to potentially talk about how it's not necessarily over for him, but I'll take the guy who's 6 years younger, who is involved in his team's offense. And while he could eventually be capped by Luke Musgrave, he's not capped right now, and Mark Andrews is already capped by Isaiah Likely. So I would keep I would keep Kraft. Spears is a nice bonus, but in Dynasty, um, is he headed to just a part-time role for the next few years? And then what's his value look like? I would keep Kraft. I like Tajay Spears, but I'm a little less leery. I'm a little more leery of him in Dynasty. If you remember all those reports about how, like, he doesn't have an ACL in his knee, right, from a previous surgery. So we could be looking at I'm just rolling the odds on the medical information that we have out there right now. But Tajay Spears might have like not as long of a career in the NFL. I hope he does, but if he has like a potential degenerative issue that again was reported medically, this isn't hot take central. This is just like based off of information that we have received. I mean, Spears might last 4 or 5 years. Hopefully, he lasts longer. I'll take Kraft. I'll take Kraft over Andrews and Spears. I have enough questions on the Andrews and Spears side that makes me feel okay with keeping Kraft. Oh my god, the chat is lagging. Apologies. Come on. I'm just trying to get up to the question that I need to answer. Is Anthony Richardson droppable at this point? No. I'm not ready to go there. And I will tell you, I have a league. This is a little bit more of a lower stakes league. It's like with it's old coworkers that I worked with like years and years ago. We maintained a fantasy league. It's like a $15 buy-in. It's not that much. It's for fun. Anthony Richardson was dropped in that league. I immediately scooped him up. Because the upside is too tantalizing. It's still early enough in the season where I am not ready to give up on a guy that we had top 5 expectations for going into the year. He's going to be the starter when he comes back. Yes, he's volatile. He's still developing as a passer. He's still, I think, learning how to be a quarterback in general. Again, like learning when to slide, all that good stuff. But the raw talent is too tantalizing. So I'm not ready to get, especially if you have Fields. I'm not going to drop Richardson just to pick up Kirk Cousins. You can rely on Fields for now, and if Richardson is able to find his groove again, then you have him, the guy that you would want to go back to already on the roster. No, I'm not dropping Anthony Richardson. I'm not dropping Anthony Richardson. No. Keep Fields, rock with Fields moving forward. Let's give Anthony Richardson some time. If he's stinking up the joint or if he's still on the shelf due to injury in like a month, then yeah, I'll drop him. But right now, I'm willing to still hold and roll the dice on the upside. First win after the big trade. Nicely done. Daniels looks awesome. Brian Thomas is a star in the making. He might already be one. I don't know what level of tier we're putting him in wide receiver, but Brian Thomas is good. Brian Thomas is just good. And then a Connor for Mixon swap is fine with me. Connor's healthy, Mixon's not right now. So yeah, I feel great about that move right now. I know Jefferson's the man. We all know this. But holy hell, that trade looks great right now. That trade looks great right now for you. Nicely done. I do remember that. And then I did kind of touch on this a little bit at the beginning, but does Salah's firing boost Breece Hall? And I'll throw this to anybody on the Jets offense as well. I don't think so. Only because I don't know how involved was Salah in the offense. Or is this just the Aaron Rodgers, Nathaniel Hackett show, which I think is actually the case. I'm going to say not that much. Nathaniel Hackett needs to get his shit together as an offensive play caller, and I don't know how many people actually have confidence that that's going to happen. For whatever reason, Aaron Rodgers loves working with Nathaniel Hackett, even though we've seen what Nathaniel Hackett's offenses look like without a prime, fully healthy Aaron Rodgers. They stink. They're not good. So, like, how much credibility does this guy have? Aaron Rodgers, just for whatever reason, likes working with him. And that's why he's employed. That's why he's the Jets offensive coordinator. If Aaron Rodgers wasn't the quarterback of the New York Jets, Nathaniel Hackett wouldn't be the offensive coordinator. This is a boring offense. This is an uninteresting offense. This is one that is, difficult to trust. So, no, and then it's twofold with Breece Hall. He's got a Braylon Allen problem. I did not see this coming with Breece Hall. I thought Breece Hall was talented enough to overcome bad situations because he did that last year, but he's not overcoming this situation, and now Braylon Allen is in the mix. This is not good. Breece is still a guy that you're firing into your starting lineup until further notice, but that further notice is no longer like rest of season. It's now like, all right, let's see where we're at in a month's time. And do we have to reassess on Breece Hall? But you drafted him top 5. We expected a top 3 or top 5 RB finish. We're not getting that right now, obviously. But it's what are we gonna do? And I'm not suggesting that you are in a position to bench Breece Hall, but like we can't. We just kind of have to hope that they figure things out, and that turns things around for Breece. But I do not think the firing of Robert Saleh really has any impact on what his outlook looks like moving forward. Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers need to get it together. My chat keeps freezing. I hope that the feed is okay, because I'm like trying to scroll through to see like what the next question is that I have to answer, and it keeps freezing on me. So apologies. I got Greg's questions. Greg, I would put let's see. You have Harrison Jr., Debo, and Pittman. So I would say Dowdle is the priority, and then Josh Downs in that order. I want both, but if you can only get one, target Dowdle. Dowdle should not be on waivers. He's the Cowboys' RB1 rest of season. That I am confidently willing to claim. Dowdle, then Downs. You got offered to give up Drake London to get either Kenneth Walker or Breece Hall. You've got pretty good wide receivers currently, although Shaheed probably just took a hit with Derek Carr's oblique injury. You could definitely use a running back. If you can get Kenneth Walker for Drake London, yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't want Breece right now. I'd rather have London than Breece Hall, but I would give up London to get Kenneth Walker. I would give up London to get Kenneth Walker. And then at least you still have Jefferson, Godwin, and DJ Moore to hang your hat on. Of course, you may be taking a hit if you do the trade this week because Jefferson is on bye, and that would maybe mean it looks like you would have to possibly start Shaheed if you start 3 wide receivers. And Shaheed without Derek Carr is not as enticing. But if you can eat that for 1 week, then I would give up London to acquire Walker. I'm okay with that. Walker looks awesome. Or he did against the Lions. What did he do against the Giants? He did fine. He only got 5 carries, but he turned it into 19 yards. I mean, he didn't even really get a chance to get going. But he caught the ball 7 times. Kenneth Walker, yeah. So Walker's clearly in a situation where he's the lead dude for Seattle, and if they're trailing, they are perfectly fine throwing him the football. Yeah, I would take Walker for London. I would take if you're in need of a running back and it looks like you could use one. But nicely done having Bigsby already, by the way. Yes, I would trade London for Kenneth Walker. London's good, but your receiver options are better than your running back options, so it's good to beef that up. Greg, I see you have a couple more questions, so I will get to you because that is a perk of being a member of the channel. So I have my spot in line for anybody who I haven't gotten to yet. So just asking for some patience. Appreciate that. I got to get to my members first. Again, perk of being a member of the channel. If you're interested in becoming a member of the channel, first link in the description of this live stream. Uh-oh. We're not having any stream issues, are we? I don't think so. Yeah, okay. I thought I saw a glitch there on my end briefly, but I think we're okay. Would I drop Bucky Irving for Tank Bigsby at this point? I want both. I don't want to drop Bucky. I know he fumbled on Thursday night, but they went right back to him. The Bucks did. They didn't like put him on the bench and have Rachaad White dominate opportunities from that point forward. They went back to him. So I don't really want to drop Bucky. I want Tank, but I want Bucky as well. If you already have Bucky, I would hang on to him. Yeah, I would want to find another way to try to add Tank Bigsby. I don't want to drop Bucky Irving. Speaking of a guy who's trending to take over that backfield, Bucky Irving could be the Bucks RB1 as soon as this week. I think the last time I saw, he was listed as the RB1 on the depth chart. See if that's still the case. It is. Bucky Irving is listed first on the depth chart over Rachaad White. No, do not drop Bucky Irving. Do not drop Bucky Irving. And then did I see that Drake? I saw that Drake May is starting. No real strong opinion there. He could give this offense some life, but their offensive line is bad. The Patriots probably have the worst offensive line in football. I think they're allowing pressures nearly half of quarterback dropbacks. So, May could run around a little bit, use his legs, probably a little bit more mobile at this point than Jacoby Brissett is, but it's a tall task for him. The overall talent on offense for the Patriots is not strong, and their offensive line is among the worst in the league, if not like the worst in the league. I don't have a strong feeling about if you're in a super flex league and you have Drake May, then that's exciting, but that's the only reason to be excited. I don't know that this necessarily does any wonders for anybody. Ramondre should continue to maintain good usage. Antonio Gibson, I guess, will continue to get involved as they try to keep things simple for the rookie, lean on the run game, lean on an extension of the run game with some short, quick passes to running backs and tight ends. So Hunter Henry's role probably is fine. I would not feel very strongly about the wide receivers. This probably hurts DeMario Douglas. This hurts Jalen Polk. Not long term, but for right now, as everybody all kind of continues to get acclimated and get their, as the rookies are finding their way, this offense is probably going to continue to be, struggling. So not super, no super strong opinion on that. Okay, where am I at? What would I trade for Marvin Harrison Jr.? That's the question. Yeah. Greg, hopefully that helps. Hopefully your internet held up long enough to hear those thoughts. But let me know. My internet is crapping out right now. I'm there's so much lag for me looking at my looking at this chat, so I apologize. Let's see. What would I trade for Marvin Harrison Jr.? Not Lamar, not Henry, not Kamara, not Mason. You have good man. You have good running backs. Um, I see why you maybe would be interested in doing it though, because your running backs are really strong, and your wide receivers are could use some help. I mean, the first thing I would try to do is dangle Nick Chubb and his potential return. Obviously, he hasn't done anything yet and is a huge question mark. I don't know how much how much of a potential believer in Chubb the person who has Marvin Harrison Jr. is, but you could try that. You probably got to package him with one of these other depth guys like Justice Hill or Roshan, um, to pull that off. But I would start there. It's definitely a low ball offer, but Harrison didn't have a huge game, so you can try the low ball offer. It might not work, but it's always worth starting at the low ball offer and seeing if it works. If it doesn't, 2 catches for 36 yards on 7 targets. Third straight week where he was a wide receiver 2 or worse. I would start with Chubb, and if they don't go for Chubb because, well, he's hurt and, I don't want to roll those dice, then it's going to have to be one of those top 3 running backs. I don't really want to trade Henry. I don't really want to trade Kamara. I don't really want to trade Mason. You're definitely not trading Henry because you have Lamar and Justice Hill, so I would keep all of that together. I mean, I guess you could say if you dangled, I don't really want to do this. If you dangled Kamara, you could also dangle Rico 1 for 1. You could dangle Rico 1 for 1. I don't really want to trade Rico, but to take a shot on Marvin Harrison when your running backs are strong and your receivers could use a little bit of a boost, you could try Rico. I would start with Chubb, throw in Roshan or not Justice Hill. Throw in Roshan or Braylon Allen as a pot sweetener. And if Chubb doesn't get it done, I would offer Rico straight up. If Rico doesn't get it done, you could try like Rico and Roshan or Rico and Tutu. And if that doesn't work, then I probably would look for other options to trade for, because I don't want to trade Kamara or Mason for Marvin Harrison unless I was getting another running back in the deal. So start with Chubb, work up to Rico. Ancillary pieces as pot sweeteners, depending on how the conversation goes. I would not trade Kamara or Mason unless I was getting Marvin Harrison Jr. plus in return. Do you trade Mason for Achane? I wouldn't. I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would do that. Mason didn't have a great game this past week. The problem with Mason is he didn't score, and he doesn't really catch the ball a whole lot. Obviously, that's a Christian McCaffrey specialty. But we don't know what Christian McCaffrey's availability looks like rest of season. Mason has hit RB3, RB8, and RB4 finishes 3 of the 5 weeks. He's been an RB1 3 out of the 5 weeks. He's been a top 5 RB1 2 of those 3 weeks. And the other 2 weeks, he still had like a serviceable RB2, low end RB2, high end RB3 performance. Achane with a healthy Tua, RB7, and then he had an RB3 performance week 2. Without Tua, he's been outside the top 36 the past 3 weeks, and he picked up a concussion. Now, Tua is expected to return eventually, so that boosts Achane. presumably. But he has picked up a concussion. You're making this trade off of the potential that Christian McCaffrey comes back, blows up Jordan Mason's spot, and Achane eventually comes back fully healthy with Tua back in the fold and, goes back to being Devon Achane and his ceiling is all the way back. What we don't know is if that will happen. Will that play out? I would need another small piece in the deal, like a depth wide receiver, to make that happen. I see that you're 4-1, and that's, nicely done. Strong start. You're firmly looking toward the stretch run and what you're going to do in the fantasy playoffs with a start like that. So Achane could be the preference at that point. I would be okay if you could sneak or finagle an extra depth piece out of the deal, like a depth wide receiver or even another depth running back, like a low end option at the end of the bench. I'm okay with it, but like you can sell right now the fact that Mason has been an RB1 3 different times and firmly has a handle on that role until McCaffrey comes back, which we don't even know is a guarantee or not. Whereas Achane is in an offense that is, they're hurting right now. We expect Tua to be back, but even if he is back, Achane just picked up a concussion. So there's like more risk with Achane. I would ask for an extra piece. And if I can get an extra piece, then I'm okay with doing the trade. But 1-for-1 straight up, I understand the thought process, but I have a little bit of pause. Biggest shock this year. Minnesota, Denver, or Burrow's hair is whatever with Joey Slim Shady. It's not been good for the Bengals this year. Rough start. Maybe needs to go back to the more natural look. I'll say Minnesota. No, I don't think nobody pegged Minnesota being 5-0. Not one, no, nobody, not one pundit. Everybody had Minnesota as a favorite to be picking in like the top 5 of the draft. More people had them at like the bottom of the standings than anywhere close to the top. I'll say it's Minnesota is the biggest shock of the early season. Denver, their defense is really good and that's awesome. I don't think anybody is surprised that their offense is still very much a work in progress. I'll say it's Minnesota. Minnesota is the biggest shock, but yes, Burrow's hair could definitely be weighing the Bengals down right now. Definitely not any issues that they have with the coaching staff or the organization in general. It's definitely it's definitely that product that he's got going on right now. Oh my god, I apologize. This is lagging so bad right now. I don't know what's going on with the chat, but the chat it's constantly getting stuck. Okay, you were offered a trade to give up Tank Dell, Devontae Adams, and Achane for Amon Ra and Ray McLeod. I don't know how I feel about that. Oh my god. Is this still stuck? Can't tell. Okay. I think I'm okay. I keep getting the notification that this page is like unresponsive. Let me know if anybody's having any issues. It might be my personal personal connection. See if I can like kill a few windows or something. Maybe that'll help. All right. We'll see if that fixes it. Let's see. Apologies about that. Dell, Adams, and Achane for Amon-Ra and Ray McLeod. I am hesitant to do that because you're not getting a running back in return. Amon-Ra is the best player of this trade. Oops. I pinned the wrong thing. There we go. Amon-Ra is the best player in this deal, but you're giving up Adams at a low point. His value is automatically going to go up once he gets traded. It's down right now. But once he's active as a result of a trade going through and we know his situation, I think his value goes up, not down. Even if it's in a situation like the Jets where he's now splitting work with Garrett Wilson, or the Steelers where he's splitting work with George Pickens, and, can we trust Fields to support two wide receivers at a high-end level for fantasy? The fact remains his value will go up once we know his landing spot and we know that he's going to return to play. I would wait on this because if you could make the trade where you get some, I don't mind the idea of it. If you get, instead of Ray McLeod, you get some like decent RB3, like a Rico Dowdle. I would wait. I don't mind the idea of this in a vacuum, but I would wait. Let's see if we can get Adams' value back up when he starts playing. Achane's value gets back up when he's healthy, past the bye week, and Tua's closer to a return. Dell might be a lost cause this year, but there is still time for him to turn it around. I don't mind the idea of trying to acquire Amon-Ra, but I would wait to pull the trigger on this because you could probably get a better piece than Ray McLeod if we wait on Adams getting traded and Achane getting healthy past the bye week and with a healthy Tua back in the mix. I would wait on this. I would wait. How much FOB are we spending on Spencer Rattler in Superflex leagues? Let's see. Rattler is likely to be the guy that could potentially start. I'm just going to Garofalo just to make sure I see it from the horse's mouth. Yeah, Spencer Rattler's a strong candidate to get the start. Yeah,